This video is on classifying triangles. We need to first review types of angles. There are four types of angles that we have talked about. Acute angles, which are angles less than 90 degrees. Right angles, angles exactly 90 degrees. Obtuse angles, angles greater than 90 degrees but less than 180. And straight angles, which are angles exactly 180 degrees, a straight line. We classify triangles, two different ways, by their angles and also by their sides. When we're classifying by their angles, we have three choices. If all three angles are acute angles, meaning they're all three less than 90 degrees, then it is an acute triangle. If you have just one angle, which is greater than 90 degrees, making it an obtuse angle, then that makes the triangle an obtuse triangle. And if you have one right angle, that makes it a right triangle. So all acute angles, acute triangle, one obtuse angle, obtuse triangle, one right angle, 90 degrees, right triangle. We also classify triangles by their sides. If you have no congruent sides, remember congruent means equal, it means the same. If you have no sides the same, that is a scalene triangle. If you have two sides that are the same, that is an isosceles triangle. And if you have all sides congruent, that is an equilateral triangle. Let me point out right here that if you have no sides the same, you have a scalene triangle, you're also going to have no angles the same. If you have an isosceles triangle with two sides the same, then you're going to have two angles the same because the angle across from this side right here is going to be the same as the angle across from this side right here. And if you have an equilateral triangle where all sides are the same, then all angles are also going to be the same. And if all angles are the same, they have to be 60 degrees each, because a triangle measures 180 degrees if you add all three angles. So 60 plus 60 plus 60 would equal 180, and that would be the measurements of the equilateral triangle. And again, congruent sides are sides that have the same length. Congruent means equal. Congruent means the same. So all three angles on this one are different, which means all sides are different. So that would be an acute scalene triangle. Here we have all angles different, which means all sides are different. So we have an obtuse scalene triangle. Here all angles are different, which means all sides are different. So this is a right scalene triangle. Take a moment to think about how you would classify this triangle by its angles and by its sides. All angles are different, so all sides are different. I have an obtuse angle. So this is an obtuse scalene triangle. Obtuse because I have one obtuse angle greater than 90 degrees. Scalene because all the sides are different lengths. I know they're different lengths because all the angles are different measurements. Obtuse scalene triangle. Try B. Think about how you would classify B by its angles and by its sides. B would be a right isosceles triangle. It's a right triangle because you have a right angle. It's isosceles because you have two sides the same. Even if they didn't give you these two tick marks showing those two sides were the same, I would know you had two sides the same because they give you two 45-degree angles. So if these two angles are the same, congruent, then the sides across from these angles will also be the same, congruent. Right isosceles triangle. Think about how you would classify this triangle by its angles and by its sides. This triangle has a right angle, and it has no congruent sides because it has no congruent angles. So that would make this a right scalene triangle. Think about this one. How would you classify it by its angles and by its sides? The triangle has 3 acute angles. The triangle has 2 congruent sides. So this is an acute isosceles triangle. Acute because you have 3 acute angles, isosceles because you have 2 sides the same. You also have 2 angles the same. Think about how you would classify 4A by its angles and by its sides. 4A has 3 acute angles, so that would make it an acute triangle. All the angles are different. That means all the sides are different. So that would make it a scalene triangle. So this is an acute scalene triangle. Try 4B. 4B has all acute angles, and they're all the same. All the sides are the same. I know the sides are the same because all the angles are the same, and also it gives me these 3 tick marks showing that all sides are the same. So that makes this an acute equilateral triangle. We know that a triangle has 3 sides. Remember, congruent sign looks like this. It's an equal sign with a swervy line over it, and that means equal. Scalene triangle, no sides congruent. Isosceles triangle, 2 sides congruent. Equilateral triangle, 3 sides congruent. So think about how you would answer these before I show the answer. Classify this triangle of this roof. Think about your answer, and then I'll reveal it. It appears to me this side and this side are the same. If you have 2 sides the same, that should be an isosceles triangle. This is an isosceles triangle because we have 2 sides which appear to be the same. Think about your answer to this one. This appears to have 3 equal sides, which means you have 3 equal acute angles. Looks to me like an equilateral triangle. All 3 sides appear to be the same, so this is an equilateral triangle. Classify this triangle. It appears to me that no sides are the same, so that should make it scalene. This is a scalene triangle. Measure of angle A is read as the measure of angle A. An acute angle measures less than 90 degrees. A right angle measures 90 degrees. An obtuse angle measures more than 90 degrees, but less than a straight line 180 degrees. We know that a triangle has 3 angles. Remember, congruent means equal. An acute triangle has 3 acute angles. An equilateral triangle has 3 equal angles and also 3 equal congruent sides. An obtuse triangle has 1 obtuse angle greater than 90 degrees, and a right triangle has 1 right angle greater than 90 degrees. On an equilateral triangle, all 3 angles are the same, all 3 sides are the same, and an equilateral triangle will always be a 60-60-60 triangle. All 3 angles have to be 60 degrees because they have to add up to 180. Classify this triangle. This one's a little tough because it's barely smaller than 90 degrees, but they are all acute angles, so it is an acute triangle. Try this one in your head. These marks right here, tick marks, being all the same for all 3 shows you that all the angles are the same. So this is an equilateral triangle because all 3 angles are congruent. Try this one. This one should be easy because that is definitely an obtuse angle right there. This is an obtuse triangle because it has one obtuse angle. Try number 7. Even easier because it has this box here showing you this is a right angle, so that makes it a right triangle. So let's classify this one by its angles and by its sides. All right, I have a right angle, so that's going to make it a right triangle. These 3 sides appear to be different measurements, so that's going to make it scalene. So we have a right scalene triangle. Now try this one by its angles and by its sides. I have a 126-degree obtuse angle, so that's going to make it obtuse. And this is telling me that this side and this side are the same, and this side is longer. If this side's 3 inches and this side's 3 inches and this side's 4 inches. 2 sides the same would be isosceles. So this is an obtuse isosceles triangle. Try this one. Well, number 10, all 3 angles are acute. That makes it acute. All 3 angles are different, which means all 3 sides are different, and it even gives me the measurement of all 3 sides being different. That is scalene, so this is an acute scalene triangle. You still don't need to write anything, but look at all these triangles and pick out which one you think is an isosceles right triangle. Isosceles means 2 sides are the same, so that's isosceles, and this is isosceles, but this is the only one that has a right angle. So this should be your answer. Isosceles right triangle. Try number 2. Which one is equilateral? The only one that is showing all 3 sides are the same with these 3 tick marks is this one. That is an equilateral triangle, and it has to be an acute equilateral triangle. That's the only kind of equilateral triangle is acute. Try number 3. Look for a scalene obtuse triangle. All right, isosceles, equilateral, isosceles, isosceles, right. It's got to be this one or this one, and this one definitely is obtuse. Scalene obtuse triangle. Try number 4. Looking for an isosceles obtuse triangle. You have 3 isosceles triangles, this one, and this one. This is a right one. This one appears to be acute, and this one appears to be obtuse. Try number 5. Look for a scalene right triangle. Right triangles are easy to find. Usually they have that little box. So that's a right triangle, that's a right triangle. And I want it to be scalene. Well, this one's isosceles. It has 2 sides the same. So it's going to be this one. That is a scalene right triangle, or I would call it a right scalene triangle. So to review, triangles are classified by their angles. It can be acute, obtuse, or right, and by their sides. Scalene, no congruent sides; isosceles, 2 congruent sides; and equilateral, 3 congruent sides. Thank you.